Hoosier Hoops is brought to you in part by Open-Sided MRI. Only open-sided MRI will do. Indie Lube, good for a change. And Wix Pies, old-fashioned goodness baked fresh daily right here in Indiana.
We're in Newcastle, and this is the only Hall of Fame museum in the world which is dedicated only to high school basketball. Hi, I'm Dave Calabro, and what a perfect place to celebrate Hoosier Hoops, the end of an era. This is the final single-class tournament in the state of Indiana, and in the next half hour, we'll take a look back at that glorious history, and we'll also name the all-time all-tourney team and coach, voted on by you, the viewers of Channel 13, and the readers of the Indianapolis Star-News. One of those all-stars will join us for a walk down memory lane. But first, why is Indiana basketball so big? Well, we sent Chris Profit to a typical small town that's crazy about high school hoops.
Crazy.
They were the athletes whose names swirled around the playground imaginations of every Indiana kid who ever picked up a basketball. They were once those same kids who dreamed in a small town of one day becoming like their heroes. It's a story that starts here. This is Rossville, Indiana, population 1,200. A town where basketball is a birthright passed down from father to son and daughter. Nearly all of the people who live here do so for that day each year when the Rossville Hornets tip off the regular season.
Basketball's it. We got no football. So, I mean, when it comes to basketball season, that's what the community lives for.
Aaron's uncle, Bob Knapp, was a part of the Hornets' glory years from 1969 to 71. He would later coach the team he once played for and become the school's current athletic director.
And I remember sitting by the radio, those nights keeping score for the Rossville players. And in '58, we won the sectional. And I remember Mom and Dad coming home, picking me up, and bringing me back to a bonfire that night. And I remember all those the team coming back and watching those players, and I knew that's what I wanted to do someday, to be like that.
I'm crazy.
So did Rossville's best-known Hornet, the one who learned to shoot hoops on a faded red barn on the family farm, the one who would one day become the '1 player in the state, the college and pro basketball star, the one whose name you see as you drive into town, the one that stands 5'7" and is all female.
But if you live here and you're, if you have any kind of talent of, going on and playing professional basketball, playing college basketball, and just, being Miss Basketball, I think I've been very, very fortunate and very lucky.
Crazy.
Jennifer Jacoby might not have been so lucky had she not been born in a basketball state, where even in a small town, the dream of making the team comes true each year like it always has. All you need is a hoop and an old barn, just like the one your hero had.
And I'm crazy for loving.
Big Mac, George McGinnis, he definitely lived out the dream. Of course, he was a star with the Indiana Pacers, but many people still remember him for the 1969 Washington Continentals. George, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. A real pleasure being here, Dave.
You had quite a pro career, but everybody wants to talk to you about the Washington Continentals, it seems.
Well, I get questions all the time about my 1969 high school championship team, more so than anything I'm asked about basketball. And I don't think that I've ever played any game or played at any level where a game meant so much and felt so good as the night in March of 1969. It's still the greatest thing that's ever happened to me.
And soon the one-class tourney will be a treasured memory like the state champions of 1969. It's a while ago, huh? Yep. Rich Nye says 5 small school principals are the starting 5 for the class basketball system.
So goodbye, yesterday.
The class basketball movement began with 5 high school principals in September 1993.
The small schools felt we just couldn't be competitive. It wasn't fair to our kids and to our communities.
John Spoonmore helped persuade the Indiana High School Athletic Association to investigate class sports. For 2 years, a study committee gathered research and opinion.
There's no reason why 5 guys can't go out and beat 5 guys.
if you're going to call yourself a state champion, then you don't want to know that there's 2 other state champions.
In September 1995, the committee recommended class tourneys for all team sports. But the tradition-rich boys basketball tourney sparked passionate debate.
It's going to give the little schools a better shot, to give them something to bring home instead of just disappointment.
In another 5 years, there won't be any little schools. They're all coming together and consolidating, so what difference does it make? Leave it alone.
Proposal passes by 12-5 vote.
On April 29, 1996, the IHSAA board adopted class sports. Traditionalists challenged the decision and won a statewide principals referendum on the issue. But in September, 57% of the schools upheld the decision.
The issue even bounced into the State House in early 1997. This bill would have made it illegal for public schools to play in a class tournament. But lawmakers took the bill to the basket.
So is Hoosier hysteria dead?
We don't think we killed it. We think we made it better. You know, it's a grand tradition, certainly, 86 years, a lot of wonderful memories, but we think it's time to move ahead.
The first class basketball tourney is played in 1998.
Say goodbye to yesterday.
Well, Dave, here's one for you. This display from Crawfordsville shows Indiana's connection to the inventor of basketball.
Yeah, it's very interesting. That's one of the many stories the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame has to tell. That's coming up next. And who is Indiana's all-time best high school basketball coach? Your vote is coming up. But first, a great moment from a past tournament. 1977, Carmel Greyhounds behind East Chicago, Washington by 1 point, only seconds remaining. And look at this pass. John Ogle makes the shot after a timeout. East Chicago comes back but misses. Carmel hangs on to win 53-52. That was Scott Skiles and his last-second shot for Plymouth in the 1982 Indiana High School Tourney, one of the last to be played at Market Square Arena. Welcome back to Hoosier Hoops, the end of an era. George McGinnis is a permanent resident of the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame, one of 3 gentlemen to be elected to the Hall in the first ballot. Quite an honor.
Well, to be in the same company as Rick Mound and Oscar Robinson is truly a high honor for me.
And the jersey still fits, right?
I don't think so.
Let's go on a tour.
I could use a little help, so we've asked the Hall's executive director, Mr. Jason Crow, to join us. Jason, let's start at the beginning.
Yeah, why is Crawfordsville known as the birthplace of Indiana basketball?
Well, the Reverend Nicholas C. McKay was in James Naismith's class at Springfield College when Dr. Naismith invented the game of basketball. And then the following winter, when he graduated, he was hired as secretary of the Crawfordsville YMCA. So he brought the game of basketball with him to Indiana, and Hoosiers were playing basketball in Indiana before it even left the state of Massachusetts.
Jason, could you tell us who was the first great high school basketball player in Indiana?
Well, you'd have to go back to 1913 to Wingate High School, and a guy by the name of Homer Stonebreaker was probably our first superstar. Homer led tiny Wingate High School, which had less than 100 students, to back-to-back state championships in 1913 and 1914, and they didn't even have a home gym. But the next dynasty from Wingate to come along was probably Franklin and the Wonder Five, when they won 3 consecutive state championships in 20, 21, and 22, led by Fuzzy Vanderveer and Grizz Wagner. In fact, Franklin was so happy that Grizz Wagner won the first state championship that they gave him a $1,000 bonus, and his salary to coach the team was only $50 for the whole year, so that's quite a bonus. The next dynasty to come along was in the mid-20s with Martinsville High School. They won the 24 state championship, and then John Wooden led the team to the state finals in the 26, 27, 28 season, and they won it in 1927.
Jason, there's a lot of Hoosiers who are famous for other things, but they actually got their start in basketball. Can you talk a little bit about them?
We had James Dean, who made his big splash in Hollywood, but was a starting guard for the Fairmount Quakers and ended up being all-sectional in 1949 at the Marion Sectional. Chuck Taylor graduated from Columbus High School, and he ended up inventing the high-top basketball shoe that is now being remarketed by Converse.
Well.
We know that.
Well, Dave, you've seen some of the great stories from the past. Let's see if you can make a shot of your own right here at the Hall of Fame buzzer beater.
All right, Mac, I'm up to the
quarter
challenge.
in. You got 5 seconds.
5 seconds?
That's all.
Nothing but net. I'm feeling lucky. I'm feeling real lucky.
The crowd is roaring. And...
Oh!
Well, Dave, obviously you're having a pretty tough time. Why don't you let me show you how it's done?
Oh, thanks, Mac. I'll buy this time around since you're making me feel so proud here.
5 seconds.
Ready? I get the assist.
All right.
Glass.
Couldn't have wrote that any better, man.
Well, it's obvious Big Mac still has the touch. Imagine how stressful it is being a player trying to hit that last-second shot. Imagine being a coach watching on the sidelines. So who is the best high school coach in history? We ask you, the viewers of Channel 13 and the readers of the Indianapolis Star-News, to pick. Here's Don Hine.
A tight race in the coaches poll between Bill Green, who coached at Marion 16 years and won a total of 6 championships, including his '69 title at Indianapolis, Washington, and Attuck's Ray Crow. Many of you, as a result of the movie Hoosiers, thought he coached at South Bend Central, but all of his 19 seasons were at Attuck's with 2 titles and a second. So, congratulations, Bill Green, picked by the fans as the greatest high school coach ever.
To me, I think that's the ultimate. Anything coming from the fans of Indiana high school basketball has to be for real because they're real fans.
Bill won titles in 3 decades, but he's remembered most for his matchup zone and his three-peat in '85 through '87.
Those 3 years, we just did everything that we had to do, and every time we had a big game, we were able to meet the line and win that particular game.
81-year-old Ray Crow and I remembered his wins in '55 and '56 and a second in '57. Those great Oscar Robertson-led teams. Was he the best coach?
I'd have Oscar #1 and Willie Gardner #2.
Wow.
And a lot of others real close to him.
The only time Oscar was a bust was in this trophy case at Attuck's.
Ray and I were just looking at this championship trophy from 1956. They were 31-0, the first team to go undefeated and win a state championship.
So it's Green and Crow in a 1-2 finish, and the folks in Marion knew what they were doing in '96 in giving Greeno the golf cart for his Florida retirement.
Please tell Don Hine I said hit him straight.
Thanks, Coach. I'm trying.
George, Bill Green was your coach. Really no surprise that he won the balloting.
Well, 6 state championships is more than anyone in the history of high school basketball. Outstanding coach, but even better yet, I think he cared about the kids away from the basketball court, and that's one of the things that really made him great.
Congratulations to Bill Green. Up next on Hoosier Hoops, the end of an era, we'll look at the all-time best players voted by you. Stay tuned. And the team that inspired a Hollywood movie. We'll take you to the real Hickory, a tiny town called Milan, where they still talk about the shot.
It's good! It's good! Tiny Milan High School is taking the lead.
Tom Van Arsdale, Brother Dick, and Indianapolis Manual have to settle for second in 1961. Another exciting moment in Indiana basketball history. But the one most closely associated with Hoosier hysteria is the 1954 Milan Miracle when Bobby Plump hit the last-second shot that put Milan on the map. You remember hearing about that?
Yeah, I was only 4 years old in 1954, but of course, I read about the great Milan team and Bobby Plump, and really that was a year that just tremendous light started to shine on Indiana high school basketball, and I think from that point forward, we had the best high school tournament in the nation.
Most definitely. Rich Nye has a look at the movie Hoosiers and comparing it to the real thing.
The Indiana depicted in the movie Hoosiers looks much like rural Ripley County. But how close is Hickory's story to the 1954 Milan team that inspired the film?
Coach is dismissed by a vote of 68-45.
I think we should vote again.
All that controversy is just Hollywood making up a good story. But the players say the movie does capture the essence of a small town and a little school that did win the state championship.
3 teammates returned to Milan to compare their memories of '54 to the movie.
Welcome to Indiana basketball.
When I saw those gyms, those old gymnasiums filled with people, well, that was true. And that brought back a lot of fond memories for anybody who played basketball in Indiana in the 50s.
You know, the bus would go, and the people, they didn't wait till the varsity game. They came for the B-team game, and you also got to understand that the gyms were very small, and so they got there to get a ticket and get a decent seat.
Ray Kraft grew up on this farm just outside Milan. His trip to Butler Fieldhouse was his first to Indianapolis.
So it must have been an overwhelming experience.
Oh, it was. You know,
small boy going into a big city and then going into such a facility.
Let's win this one for all the small schools who never had a chance to get here.
Did you guys have that in your minds?
No, but I think that's the way it turned out.
Bobby Plump made the game-winning shot.
And if you'll look at the film of Milan Muncie and you look at Jimmy Chitwood after he gets the ball, his actions are the same and the shot is identical.
Plump says both Milan and Hoosiers have a theme that goes beyond basketball.
It doesn't make any difference where you come from, who you are, you have an opportunity to win.
When you think about dynasties, the Muncie Central Bearcats may come to mind, or the Marion Giants, or even East Chicago, Washington. They had a couple of strong squads. When it comes to picking the all-time best team, that's a tough choice. Here's Chris Stout.
When you get down to the best team ever, Hoosiers just can't decide a clear-cut winner. Sharing the prestigious honor of the best high school team ever in Indiana, the 1956 Crispus Attucks Tigers and the 1969 Washington Continentals. You have to admit, trying to pick one of these two teams as the best is very difficult, but maybe if we find ourselves a couple of experts, we can decide this issue once and for all.
I'd have to go Washington because of Georgia's size and speed, and you know, a guy 6'8" in high school with that kind of size and speed, they hadn't seen anything like that back in Robinson's time.
Without a doubt, I think Crispus Attucks. Not only did they play the team, they played the guys in the striped shirts. And they had to get way out in front if they wanted to win.
In 1956, Crispus Attucks won their second straight state title, going a perfect 31-0. The Tigers were the first all-black school to win the state crown.
We know everything was against us, you know, and this made us play hard and work hard and you know, did the right thing, you know. And so that was a special moment to bring, you know, and plus we brought the city of Indianapolis first state champion team. That was the 55.
With teenage towers George McGinnis and Steve Downing, the 69 Washington Continentals became only the third team in Indiana high school history to finish the season unbeaten.
I'm absolutely glad it worked out this way because I can't think of a better way to recognize two teams that really were talented, that came from two different eras.
We'll never know which team would have won. One thing we do know, though, with all of you fans deciding, these are the two best high school teams ever in the state of Indiana.
Well, George, congratulations. The 69 Continentals tie Crispus Attucks for the all-time great team. What's your fondest memory?
Well, I think more than anything else is that it was just a tremendous group of guys who played together, who really cared about each other. There's a real story behind this team because before the season started in 1969, Bill Green became our head coach. And he made a deal with us. He said every time we win a game, he'd take the whole team to White Castle and we could eat as many as we wanted. So we promptly won 31 games in a row.
That's a lot of White Castle.
Yeah, sure is.
Well, we've met the top team and the top coach. Coming up next, your selections for the best individual players. But first, another great moment in Hoosier Hoops history. Jeff Poisel beats the buzzer in double overtime to lift Ben Davis over New Albany for the state title in 1996. Broad Ripple's Stacy Turan fires the winning shot to beat Marion in the 1980 semifinal. Welcome back to Hoosier Hoops, the end of an era. I'm Dave Calabro with the legendary Big Mac, George McGinnis, and it's time to announce the all-time all-tourney team, the best individuals. Now, we've counted hundreds and hundreds of ballots from you, the viewers, and readers of the Indianapolis Star and News. Here's Rich Nye with the interesting results.
The Big O received the most votes from Hoosier basketball fans. Oscar Robertson led Crispus Attucks to state titles in 1955 and 56.
Oscar probably was the first 6'5" player to play a lot of guard. You know, he played all over the floor, but you could always depend on him to make the big play when they needed a big play.
At 6'7", 220 pounds, George McGinnis was an unstoppable power forward. McGinnis scored 35 points in Washington's 1969 championship. Damon Bailey is Indiana's all-time leading scorer with 3,134 points. Bailey carried Bedford North Lawrence to the 1990 title in front of 41,000 fans at the RCA Dome. In 1966, Lebanon's Rick Mount became Sports Illustrated's first high school cover boy. Mount honed his deadly shooting skills at this playground in Lebanon, where about 150 high school players would gather for their chance to play the Rocket.
I was just a natural. Nobody ever taught me how to shoot. And I think every kid that goes out 6, 7 years old on up, all they're thinking about in their backyard or on the outdoor court or on their driveway court is winning the state championship.
Mount never realized his dream. Lebanon lost in the semi-state final. Larry Bird is the only player on the first team that was not named Mr. Basketball. The 1974 Springs Valley All-Star blossomed after high school. The second team is led by 1983 Mr. Basketball Steve Alford. Kent Benson, another Newcastle star, wore the #1 jersey in '73. Glenn Robinson took Gary Roosevelt to the '91 state title. John Kemp led Concord to a runner-up finish in '88. And rounding out the second squad is 1959 Mr. Basketball, Jim Rail of Kokomo. Receiving honorable mention is Washington's Steve Downing, twin brothers Dick and Tom Van Arsdale of Manual, Washington's Billy Keller, and Marion's Jay Edwards. Those are the best players in Hoosier Hoops history, selected by Indiana's basketball fans.
Well, congratulations, George. That's quite an honor to be selected one of the top 5 players of all time. That's neat.
It's an incredible honor. Can you imagine that lineup? The Big O and Bird, Bailey, and Mount, and myself? We'd play anybody.
Well, congratulations. Honor to have you on the show. Thanks for watching this 13 Sports Special, Hoosier Hoops, the end of an era. Class basketball comes your way next year. We'll be here to cover it for you. From the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame, for George McGinnis, I'm Dave Calabro. Thanks for watching.
Hoosier Hoops was brought to you by Open-Sided MRI, Indy Lube, and Wix Pies.